The car you see behind you was the catalyst for me coming down to Rindt. For me, just the little things that I saw online told me that this is a very much a sleeper company. There's a lot that meets the eye, and I was intrigued and reached out to the owner, Brian, who runs the company with a lot of passion, and he was kind enough to invite me over and have a look at this very car, but also at the facilities they have. Rindt is one of those companies that is driven by passion, by a vision to not only restore Porsches of old, but also to bring them back to life with a punch. And you'll see what I mean in just a few minutes when we go and explore the facilities inside and some of the work that's being done on some projects. Well, let me just say, some of those vintage Porsches are now going to be running with over 500 brake horsepower. So yeah, it's always been a fascinating subject for me. I've always loved vintage Porsches, but for me personally, I find it a little difficult to try and justify paying, let's say, 150,000 pounds for one of these cars. You'll see that there's a lot of work that goes behind making these cars roadworthy again. Now I love old generation vintage Targas, especially from the 911, 912 series Targa with the hardtop, the glass top. But this really caught my attention. I love how it's been configured. It's been sort of obviously modernized, and I do like the gray. It complements the interior, which I'll show you in just a second. So this is obviously a newer generation, but also really nice. I love some of the work that they've done on the interior. Of course, you have the Fuchs wheels, you have modern lights in there, but what's really nice, and I thought, yes, this is a bit of me, is when I saw the interior. I saw the interior, glanced at it from outside, and I thought, yeah, this is pretty cool. They're doing quite a bit of work to the car to bring it back to sort of more modern standards. So they're sorting out a few issues for the client. However, it's got electric seats. It's got a lot of modern comfort. It's got a new gearbox, a 5-speed gearbox. It's got a nice radio. But for me, the seats, I was like, yes, this is more of an interior, more of a space I'd want to be cruising in, going on long journeys. And yeah, I love obviously the combination of the gray and the tan leather. It's super cool and very nice. And of course, you have the rule hoop, the original Targa rule hoop. So that's a very iconic design, along with the Fuchs wheels. This angle right here just really works. That thud of the door, just so very strong, very nice. All right, let's go inside and have a look at the beautiful cars that are currently in the works. First, this is the company's dog, little Chow Chow. He's so adorable. All right, let's go inside this gorgeous labyrinth, and just as we walk in, we are greeted by this stunning sort of an emerald green with the work being done to it. This car is actually for a client. This car was sent over from Singapore for some work to be done to it and bring it back to the 21st century. Complete nut and bolt restoration. Okay, so as you can see, a lot of the parts that we see here are eventually going to go into this car. This is a client's car, and this car is going to be as original as possible. So as you can see, completely, I mean, it's, you know, we start from scratch essentially. The car is brought back to bare metal and then slowly back to life. So a lot of the components you see there will obviously be put into the car and be brought back to original. So whereas this will be very much stock and how it came out from the factory and will stay true and original, this is completely going the other way, and this is an insanely bonkers project, but very fascinating. The client has spec'd it up to be a monster on the road. It's going to be running 500 horsepower. Let's talk about some of the details that we can just about see, and some of the details that I've been told about by Brian, the director. So as you can probably just see here, this has got a carbon fiber bonnet, carbon fiber fenders and spoiler, and some really trick features. For example, we're going to have air ducts that are going to be sort of built in to the body here, with sort of air being rammed into the intercoolers, which is really cool. So you're going to have air being channeled through ducts that are going to be sucking the air clean and then driving it into dams here, which will be built and driven into the engine to feed the intercoolers, which is absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to see that. So essentially the engine is a 3.2 liter running a G50 gearbox, and with 2 turbochargers to make it produce over 500 horsepower. So an incredible amount of power running on this very car. It's going to be running, I was told, some really special 18-inch Fuchs wheels, but a very deep dish design, also with some really special Recaro seats especially made for the car, with an incredible sort of houndstooth material woven in with leather. And also it's going to have sort of a new dashboard with navigation running through it, and telephone, and all the creature comforts, including a suede headliner. So you can just imagine what this car will essentially look like once it's completely done. But how about that? I mean, it's absolutely bonkers. This car is already sold to a client who's got 2 other cars from Rindt that were built specially for him. So it's just incredible. It's always fascinating when someone's got a very special car to begin with, but then ends up getting another 2 from the same builder. It just talks about the ingenuity, the creativity, and their obviously very solid build quality. So yeah, I'll be very interested to keep an eye out on the project. This has to be done, I was told, in about 4 months. This will be complete. So yeah, you can just imagine the transformation that will take place on this car in the next few weeks. So I may be able to bring that to you guys on the channel, so keep an eye out. But that's really fascinating. Completely modern tech in all suits. So that, yeah, speaks my language completely. Let's move on. We have a 914, and this car is also being specified by a client. Well, it will run on electric, so an electric car. So how about that? Very interesting. Let's take a second and appreciate the space where these cars are in. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, this is essentially a very well designed, very well built barn, and I love the exposed beams. And then you have these cars in here. It's just such an incredible place to work. I can imagine, come to work every day, you'd want to come and work here and just be amongst a lot of history and a lot of ingenuity being carried out day in and day out. A 3.2 Porsche with some engine work being done to it. We have a soft top Targa here, which is also quite interesting. Now I always preferred the glass top for the Targas, but that's also very nice, and opposite to the one we saw, which is a newer one. This is the generation that I do love in the Targa configuration, the 911, 912 from the 60s and early 70s. Yeah, very much what I like. Okay, so this is the candy room. We have a 997 that's being worked on. It's got 4 scoring issues. This is a 3.8. We have, oddly enough, a Lamborghini engine that's being worked on by Graham. Yeah, this is a project for the director, but how fascinating. I mean, these engines are massive. Absolutely incredible. We have a 912 engine, we have 356s here, we have a Boxster engine also, but yeah, all bits and pieces. I mean, yeah, whatever you'd like, you'll find it here, in all different forms. But how about that? So this is about to go into a car as well, so as you can see, completely brand new. It's incredible. I think these engines, how much power do you reckon these engines now produce? About 60, was it 70 or less than?
Yeah, about 60, 70.
About, yeah, 60, 70 horsepower. So it's amazing how far they've come, but it's also fascinating how a lot of clients still want originality, and the power somehow seems to do. Yeah, it's always fascinating when you see a complex component like that being stripped to see the inner workings. It's just incredible. You have a sort of a new appreciation to see, because these go under an enormous amount of pressure, of course, and force.
In the crankcase.
So what's going to be changed in order to sort of make it, well, future-proof it, essentially?
So
you talked about
that
the cylinders
will actually
inside.
be sent to the machine shop.
Okay.
And this cylinder here will be drilled out, as it were.
Yeah.
And they'll put a steel liner in there. We'll probably redo them because we don't know the quality of that work.
Of course, yeah.
And then the whole bottom end will be pulled apart and put new shells in there and everything. Actually, I think we'll send that side away as well, because it's belt and braces that way. Yeah. All right. So this is probably my favorite area during a build, because that's where you're spending most of your time in the car, essentially. So you want to be happy in your surroundings, well, and surrounded with some of the best materials. And I do love a bit of color. My eyes got caught out in this really rather nice sort of a dark red. This is a suede against the tan. So this is where the interiors are made in all different configurations and forms. So it's really interesting to see them essentially go through the different stages, from bare to foam, and then essentially kit it out, as we can just see here. This is a seat for what model?
That's 912. I think these are in white Targa.
I've seen 912s in these sort of seats, but I'm not sure if it's an upgrade from the original, because yeah, but they look definitely very comfortable. Okay, so now we're in the second part of Rindt design. This is where the cars get completely stripped down to bare metal and brought back to life. As you will see here, this is a 911 that's been completely brought back to bare metal, filled in, all the rust issues fixed and sorted out, and now being prepped for paint. An incredibly painstaking process. When you see it happening right in front of you, you realize how much work goes into making these cars roadworthy again. It's just incredible. This is all metal sheets. Really, really interesting. That's a 911 Targa that's also just come back from having its underside painted. This will be flipped over and having the same done to its top. Really incredible. This is the project Lamborghini Yelpa that I showed you the engine in the other building. So that's completely, again, having work done and all paint and restoration. This is quite an interesting project. This is a 924 Le Mans car that the owner actually initially wanted to buy 23 years ago, and sort of missed out on the chance, and recently saw it on eBay on sale, but it had completely been smashed. Bought it and had it all fixed, and now, as you can see, it's in sort of primer and all of the issues sorted out. and will have its paint of coat soon enough. So yeah, a very special car, a very rare one as well. As you can see here, they have all their facilities in-house, everything is done in here. So very cool to see. Really interesting when you see the design process sort of from start to finish, and how the cars essentially come in looking, well, looking like a rust bucket, and then having a proper shape and form to them, which is incredible. A lot of incredible work. Okay, so they don't only restore vintage Porsches, but they also do sort of work on modern ones. This is a Boxer, as you can obviously see. We saw the engine in the other building. That engine is being worked on and actually having a turbocharger added to it. So that's going to be producing crazy amount of horsepower. And as you can see here, a whole race motorsport roll cage is being fitted into the car. So this is, as you can see, completely being stripped out and having a lot of work done to it. It's really interesting when you see how far in the front the engine sits. It's a very mid-engined car. You can just imagine how much that helps in the weight distribution and in the way it handles. It's just incredible. The wheels are way back here, and then the engine is essentially right there. So yeah, absolutely go-kart like handling in this car. Absolutely amazing. That's what I admire a lot about the Porsche Boxers and the Caymans. Yeah, you sort of dismiss them, but when you realize how brilliant they drive and how they're engineered, they're really interesting cars. Beautiful to drive, I can imagine. Yeah, semi-slick tires, of course. Really cool with the orange painted wheels.